Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's SensitiveDeku and I'm back with another video. I want to take a quick moment to thank you guys for all the support. I'm really happy to be able to contribute to the Danganronpa discussion here on YouTube, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy these little videos that I put out. So since the last two videos in this series were both about girls from V3, I thought I would switch it up this time and do a male character from either the first or second game. It took me a while to decide, but I finally decided that today's video is going to be about the ultimate chef, Teruteru Hanamura. Just like Tenko, Teruteru is a character that receives an absurd amount of hate, and I honestly don't think a lot of it is deserved at all, because he's one of the few examples of a character still being likable and having redeeming traits, despite them being plagued by this shitty trope. Before we get started with today's video, I want to give a really big thanks to an amazing YouTuber, Evie. She makes wholesome content and she's such a good friend, and she's really helped me grow my channel over this past week, which I'm so insanely thankful to her for. Please go check out her channel if you're not already following her. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. And Evie, I just want to say once again, thank you so much for all your help. So now that we got that out of the way, let's start this off by talking about some general things that I like about Teruteru before we start digging a bit deeper. So like I said in the Tenko video, character designs matter a lot to me. I don't necessarily care whether or not a character's design reflects on their talent or not, but obviously in Teruteru's case, it definitely does. Still though, I'm glad that even though his outfit is typical chef attire, his overall design is not boring. As a matter of fact, I personally think Teruteru is really cute, and I never understood why so many people find him to be ugly. Obviously, everyone's opinion is different, but I can't look at this guy in these pink cheeks and not think he's adorable. And I adore his sprites as well. You can tell just by looking at him that he's full of personality and attitude, just like most ultimates. 10 out of 10 for design for me. Speaking of his personality, one of his most infamous character traits is his tendency to make very inappropriate comments and verbally sexually harass his classmates. Before I go any further, let's talk about an anime trope that really annoys me, the perverted anime male. If you watch anime, I'm sure you've seen characters similar to Teruteru in them. Characters who waste time and halt the plot to make unnecessary sexually charged comments. Male characters feeling the need to reach out and grab a girl by the tits or ass for absolutely no reason. It's really annoying and something I really do try to ignore when I'm consuming Japanese media, but when it keeps popping up and the characters in question have nothing else going for them besides this one tired, beat to death ass anime trope, it really gets hard to simply ignore it and not just drop the material entirely. Fortunately, in Teruteru's case, he really avoids falling into a lot of these traps that the other characters do. First things first, although Teruteru does make many of these inappropriate comments, the slapstick comedy in Danganronpa at least makes the audience aware that the things he says are not socially acceptable. Seeing his classmates berate him after he makes a comment, or seeing Chisa whack the fuck out of him, does a better job at delivering comic relief than his comments just being ignored or having other characters laugh at them. Second thing second, Teruteru has never physically groped anyone, and this is why I don't understand why Teruteru gets so much hate, and where I have to call out some hypocrisy on the fandom side. People's main problem with Teruteru is his pervertedness, but Miyu is a pervert too, and she does way worse things than Teruteru. For one, she's actually physically sexually assaulted someone, as she grabbed Kaede's boobs out of nowhere in their second FTE. And even outside of that, Miyu is honestly not a really good person. Let's not forget that this is the same girl who took advantage of Kibo's body simply to analyze her turds, or how she compared Ryoma's corpse to fish shit not even 5 minutes after seeing him get eaten alive. And yes, so many people love Miyu and hate Teruteru. Why? And by the way, I'm not sitting here trying to bash Miyu. I'm not saying that you're problematic or wrong for liking Miyu and not Teruteru. I like Miyu and I like Teruteru, but I do think it's a little hypocritical to hate Teruteru so much when Miyu is objectively worse. Also, before you bring up the scene from the anime where Teruteru was about to force himself on Hiyoko or whatever, remember that Hiyoko is the one who drugged everyone, not him, and everyone was acting weird and extremely, different as a result of this, so we can't just pin that on him. Teruteru has so much to offer as a character if you look outside of that one irritating trope, which is another major reason why I like him so much. His life wasn't easy. In his first free time event with Hajime, he recalls attacks and bullying from rival stores, and the rise of family restaurants creating competition for his mother's diner. He then goes on to say that he had a grief-stricken mother and young siblings who were born to different mothers, which we can assume that he was implying his father was a man who had children with lots and lots of women. Now, it's important to note that Teruteru tries to pass this off as a joke, but I highly doubt he was kidding. Besides the fact that he reveals his mom truly was sick outside of his FTEs, Teruteru, even in the main story, has a really bad habit of lying about who he is and how he truly feels. I mean, it's why he kept insisting throughout his short time in the killing game that he wasn't scared, even though we later find out that he was one of the most frightened ones. It's why he prefers to be called the ultimate chef instead of the ultimate cook, because he's ashamed of the fact that his family diner isn't some 5-star well-renowned restaurant, it's just a diner. Teruteru is essentially ashamed of himself and his story, and is why he feels the need to embellish so many things about himself, from his backstory to his dishes to his vocabulary. He's not just creating these lies to get others to believe in this disillusioned persona he's created for himself. I also believe he does it as a sort of defense mechanism to get himself to believe his own lies as well, which is why we see him break down during the latter part of the first trial and why he refuses to listen to reason. I also believe that because his father was seemingly a very sleazy person, it's not far-fetched to assume that this is where Teruteru's sexual behavior truly derives from. I also don't think it's far-fetched to assume that Teruteru's father isn't a part of his life, because as we know, Teruteru's main reason for killing the imposter was to return home to his mother, and he never mentions his father as being a notable or important figure in his life. He also mentions in his second free time event that his siblings all have more money than him, and although Hajime reads this as jealousy or worry, I honestly read this as him harboring feelings of intense resentment against his siblings. Rightfully so, in fact, because he's implying that they have the money to help him and his mother, but chose to abandon and ignore him instead. Knowing all this, it's safe to assume that because Teruteru was left all alone to support his sick mother and help keep the diner running, he was pushed into being the man of the house while he was still just a child, and the only male figure in his life was his father. I'm a big believer that many of the behaviors children display are a direct result of the things they were taught by their parents, whether directly or not, and I believe Teruteru acts sleazy for the most part not because he truly is that way, but because he kind of feels like he has to be that way. Sorry to dig so deep into a pretty serious topic, but Teruteru really is a lot more complex than people give him credit for. And you know what else? He's genuinely a pretty sweet and down-to-earth guy. Even though I said before he's ashamed of himself, he's definitely not ashamed of his ability to cook, and he has a true passion for food. And what made him really win points in my book is when we begin to see him start to let his walls down with Hajime once he realizes that he doesn't need to try and impress him with all these fancy dishes, because just like him, Hajime prefers simple home-cooked meals made with love instead of style. He even offers to cook for Hajime, and by his final FTE we find out that the dish he cooked was actually one of his mother's recipes. Finally, after seeing Teruteru try so hard to be someone he wasn't, he was being honest with himself and admitting that just because a dish is gorgeous and uses expensive ingredients doesn't mean everyone will like it. And I think it's pretty obvious that this also applies to him as well. Just because he over-embellishes areas of his personality and background doesn't mean everyone is gonna like him. And I really do think his free time events are amazing because we truly get to see Teruteru come out of his shell and develop from a perverted narcissist to a really passionate chef, a hard worker, and a great friend. It also helps that his motive for killing was relatable, or at the very least understandable. For many of us, our mothers are the most important people in our lives. Even Mahiru, someone who was totally against the killing, sympathized with Teruteru's reasoning. At the same time, let's not forget that him killing the imposter was a mistake, and that Nagito was his original target all along. Let's also not forget that part of his reasoning for wanting to kill Nagito in the first place was because he wanted to save his new friends from a possible killing. And I believe him when he said that. Although his methods surely weren't as thought out as Kaede's, I can still respect the act of trying to help or save a whole group of people, even if murder isn't right. And I'm sad that Teruteru mainly just ended up being a throwaway character because there's so much potential in him that people just ignore. One of the final things that really helped me connect to Teruteru's character was the fact that he's one of the very few characters in gaming that is confirmed bisexual. We see hints of this very early on when he flirts with Nekomaru, but he also flirts with Hajime a lot throughout his FTEs, so he's definitely a bisexual king. And as a bisexual person myself, it really makes me happy that 1, there's bisexual representation in Danganronpa, and 2, that he was actually amazing by rep, because despite his shortcomings, there was a lot of effort put into Teruteru's character. I also think that it was interesting to kind of subvert the male pervert trope by having him hit on the male protagonist as well, because a lot of the dialogue between the two of them is funny as hell, and I really think that these two have really good on-screen chemistry. So, those are all my main reasons for why I truly do care about Teruteru, and why he's easily one of my favorite characters from the second game, if not my favorite. If you want, comment down below and let me know what you guys think about Teruteru. Do you like him, dislike him, are you indifferent to him? I know he's not too popular, but I'm interested to hear the opinions of my viewers because I have a lot of underrated opinions, and I really just want to know if there's anyone out there who agrees with me. But of course, if not, I totally understand. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with a new Danganronpa video. If you liked this video or you thought it was interesting, please like the video and consider subscribing because I plan on doing way more DR videos in 2021. And yeah, I don't really have anything to say, so I guess I'm gonna sign out. Bye!